Hello and welcome back to Courage Dear Heart. This is Charli Wall, and today's conversation is a very special one because I'm joined by my client, Lynne Sutherland, who has been part of my world for the past 2 years. She's been a one-to-one client. She's come on my Wild Awakening Crete retreat, and she remains in my circle community. Now, when Lynne first came into my field, she was living with chronic anxiety, persistent back pain, and a constant feeling that something just wasn't quite right. And like so many women, she looked incredibly capable on the outside, but yet underneath, she carried a deep belief that she needed to keep searching for the thing that would finally make her feel good enough. So over the past 2 years, I've had the privilege of watching Lynne gently unravel those patterns, learning to understand her female nervous system, trust her body, receive support, and reconnect with herself in ways that she never imagined possible. And in this conversation, we reflect on her journey together. We speak about courage, shame, self-abandonment, female nervous system healing, eros, and receiving support, and what it truly means for her to trust herself. So if you've ever found yourself wondering why life still feels hard despite doing all of the things, if you've ever felt like you're the one everyone leans on whilst just questioning yourself, or if you've ever carried the feeling that something is wrong with you, I think you'll find so much of yourself in Lynne's story. So settle in, make yourself a cup of something beautiful, and enjoy this conversation with the very brilliant Lynne Sutherland.
Good morning, Charli. It's great to be here. So I'm Lynne, and I'm a mind body coach and physiotherapist.
Thank you.
That's fine.
So I've been joined by Lynne today because I've asked her to come and be interviewed for this podcast because I personally think she's an amazing woman, and I'm very lucky to have worked with her one-to-one for the last couple of years. And so before we sort of get into that, Lynne, I'd love to ask you this question. What does the word courage mean for you?
I love this question. And I think your podcasts were one of the things that drew me to you because I love the word courage and I love lions and I'm a Leo. And I was walking at the beach this morning and I thought, what does courage mean to me now? I think it's very different to what it did mean. And I think now it means to stay with myself, to not leave myself, to abandon myself in whatever shape or form that means. Even if it means my voice is shaking or I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I think that's what courage means to me now, is just to be me and not abandon myself.
Yeah, and of course, knowing you, how I know you, I know that has been one of the most profound somatic experiences that you've been able to do that over time, right? Would that be a fair kind of assessment of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially being a mind body coach, I think it can be easy to be there for others in that way. But I really learned so much about my own self, my own nervous system, and my relationship to myself as well. And that tuning in to who I really was. I was really good at doing it for everyone else. So,
Well, what did that look like for you? So, yeah, what did that look like for you in your life? What was the impact of tuning in to other people before yourself?
interestingly, I don't know if you remember, but I came across you on a codependency workshop.
I do
Um,
remember.
yes, and I had that intuitive nudge of, I really want to work with this woman, and that's how I first met you. And I suppose that codependency, I don't see it as anything bad, but I was so tuned into someone else's needs at the time with their business that I completely abandoned all of my own needs. because I thought I was just really helpful and I was really lovely and really nice, and I could do it all. But I was hitting burnout just about once a year and not really recognizing why, because I think there was this massive gap between being so attuned to someone else's needs and being there for them that completely abandoned what my own needs were, what needing rest or needing space or needing time to engage in what I enjoyed. Like there was this massive gap. And you can label it as codependency, but I now see it as I was highly tuned to someone else. And it wasn't just in that situation. It had been a really common thread through my life from being young. I learned as a young girl to tune into others to keep myself safe, tune into my family's needs before my own, growing up. So you sometimes think it's this one event that's happened, but actually, when you go back, it's been there all along, and just that's just who I am, It becomes a bit of an identity, I think, that attunement or empathy or.
So when you found me, yeah, through the sort of codependency workshop that I was doing, and then so when you said, when you had that nudge, like I want to work with this woman, what did you think was the problem at the time that you first came to me?
I thought the problem was I just wasn't brave enough and I didn't trust myself enough.
You just
That's what
weren't
I
brave
thought.
enough.
So that's where my courage kind of definition back then would have been, I'm not brave enough to do what I want to do or say no or say yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now we've completed 2 years of working together one to one. You're still a part of my circle, right? So you've been a part of the circle as well for that time, and you've come to Creed.
I did, which was amazing.
It was amazing. If anyone listening wants to see a video of me and Lynn dancing, I'll send it to you.
That's like 7 a.m. in the morning.
That's a great video. Anyway, like now after the 2 years and you've been working with me, you've come to Cree, you're in the circle. What would you say actually the thing was?
Rather than being brave.
Yeah, so if your story was, or there was a resonance with codependency, wasn't there? And there was like this identity that you've talked about of being very mindful of other people's needs and then burning out once a year. What did you thought the problem was, well, I'm just not brave enough to do dot dot dot. Having done the work that we've done together, what do you see was actually going on underneath?
Yeah, it's quite a huge question, but I
I
think
know.
because I've seen a lot over the 2 years and a lot of layers. I think I wasn't tuned into my own nervous system, which, what becomes normal. I think a lot of the time I was probably in a bit of a freeze state, but quite high functioning.
Mm.
Um, so I think that was going on under the surface. I don't think I felt fully comfortable just being me in my own skin. I think sometimes I could really hear the yes and I could follow the nudge and I could trust it. And then other times I would sort of outsource or look for someone else's views or opinions, or so sort of staying with myself in that. I don't think it was anything to do with bravery. I think it was really just understanding my own needs. And I guess the belief that I was enough just as I was. And I remember going to Crete, and it was the first time I think I was going somewhere. It was definitely the first time I was going abroad on my own, being in a large group of women that I didn't know. I knew you, obviously, and I knew some of the women from the circle group, but I didn't really know anyone. And I was also turning up just as me. I wasn't turning up as a mum or a coach or a physio, or none of us were. Like all those identities were stripped away. And I think that's what kind of scared me most about going, was like, will I be okay? Will they like me? You know, all of those sort of questions. And I remember this feeling coming back once I got the train from the airport coming back, and I just had this incredible sense of, I don't know, it's like this massive exhale, calmness, almost quite blissful as well. And I didn't really recognize it. And I think I messaged you, and I remember thinking, I feel really safe to be me. And I think in Crete, that was one of the first times that I felt so safe with essentially strangers. You know, they weren't by the end, but yeah. So there's a lot in that word of safety, you know, safe to be yourself, safe to be heard, safe to be seen, safe to get it wrong, you know, all of those things as well. I don't know if I've gone off topic there.
No, no, no. It doesn't matter if you have. Like, you know, we'll just weave it all together anyway, right? Me and you are pretty good at that.
The tapestries.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've sort of spoken about trust and your nervous system, and you're a physio and you're a mind body coach. Like, in terms of, you know, what life was like before, what was the impact on you of not trusting yourself or not feeling safe to be yourself, or, you know, experiencing what sounds like what people would call anxiety?
Yeah, so I'd started my own business, it was about 10 years ago now, I think, because I was following nudges, I was following my feminine intuition. It was there. And I also had my job in the NHS, but I had this dream to fully step away and to run my own business, and I'd resigned from my job maybe a couple of years before I met you, I think. And then I retracted my resignation and I stayed, because my nervous system, I didn't understand this at the time because I just took it as I'd done the wrong thing, but my nervous system just went into complete fight flight. Like I couldn't hold it. And then I carried on with this story. So that was the impact, I guess, of not trusting. So I carried on with the story of, I'm just not brave enough. I just can't trust myself. And then started working together and thought, right, actually, I'm going to do this. I don't know if I can. I don't know if what it's going to look like or how I'm going to be, but I'm going to take this leap. And you know, and I left my job to concentrate fully on my business for the last couple of years. So that was the impact of, from where I was, you know, there was like half trust, half not, into this space of, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I suppose with that became having to be a little bit more visible and try new things and birth new projects, and yeah, with you by my side.
Yeah, well, it's been a real privilege to walk by your side as you've navigated these thresholds and going to your edge. You know, and what you're describing is that the sensation in your body and then the mind taking over. So, what's your relationship now with your body?
Yeah, I think I've really worked with, I wouldn't have thought this, but I was so in my head to keep coming back into my body. There was something that happened last week actually, and I knew straight away. It was like really activated sort of charge in me of like quite high level of anxiety, and wanting to try and fix it in that moment by reaching outwards. And I, you know, the work that we've done together, like I really recognized it was an old pattern in me. So like being able to tune into my body and know, you know, is this current or is this old? Going back to what I said at the start about not abandoning myself, I think if I'd taken the action or done my old behaviors, I would have abandoned myself, but I didn't. I stayed with it. You know, I just went walking. I chose a different response. You know, I just stayed. I just stayed with the sensation that it was pretty high, you know, and I was having really vivid dreams that night, and but I was able to just stay with it and not go into story about myself or the situation that was happening.
So I love that, but I want you to come into like abandon yourself. You said it a few times. You're not doing that. You used to do it. If someone was listening now and heard that abandon myself, how would you describe that? Because you've given us a beautiful example of like I stayed with myself even though there was this sensation. What would you have done before doing this work? What would it look like for you as a woman to abandon yourself?
So it would have looked like reaching out to this person that the situation was around and saying, you know, is everything okay? You know, looking for reassurance or validation. That the fawn response, isn't it? That if rather than trusting my own response in it, like looking for someone else to know that they're still okay with me, that'll make me okay. So I
So
think,
you felt that sensation and that story, and then you held that sensation and you didn't resonate with the story, or you just allowed it to be there?
I think I just recognized it as really old in me and chose, you know, I'm not going to try and get rid of that sensation. You know, nobody enjoys the feeling of anxiety. You know, but before, you know, doing my coaching work and things, it was something that I really, really couldn't stand. So I might have gone into behaviors of numbing to get rid of it. I might have gone and eaten a massive bag of Haribos, like they were always my go-to. Or like I said, I might have reached out to the person to say, is everything okay? Have I done, almost like, have I done something? I wouldn't have worded it like that, but looking
Yes.
for that kind of, yeah, just reassurance. Yeah, or numbed sleep sometimes I would often do, just go to sleep to make it all go away. Sort of head under the covers sort of thing. So it would have been
Yes.
anything to really, it might have looked like the situation, but often it was to avoid that sensation, that sort of dread, fear,
But what was in there when you
sensation.
stayed with it?
Just just looking for that acceptance, I think, that it's okay. I've got this myself. There's nowhere I need to go, or there's nothing I need to do. It's like I can stay with this, I can be with it. Which, if I'd known that years ago, my goodness, that would have saved me so many years of struggle and distress as well.
Yeah, well, you said earlier on about sort of identifying with this character that you thought you were. What's that like for you now in terms of your experience of yourself in the world?
The anxious character.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think she was doing what she needed to do to be okay, to be safe, to yeah, to fit in really. That's what I'd learned at a young age. I'd really learned how to fit in.
And what's it like
Mm.
now?
Yeah, now it feels like I really don't give a shit so much. Which feels really freeing. Um, I don't know, it just opens up much more space, do different things, to yeah, to meet new people that you resonate with. And I think really I'm starting to figure out what I really enjoy in the world. You know, I think a lot of the last few years is I've had a lot of focus on building my business and doing my business. And I also realised it was never really about was it in the NHS or was it in the business. It was also like I was doing something meaningful and purposeful, which is still really important to me. But I'm also starting to give myself much more space to think, well, what do I enjoy doing? Like what lights me up? What makes me feel alive? It's whether it's running in the sea or it's listening to music or yeah. I hadn't realised how much in that protective mode of high functional anxiety that it just squishes your world so much. Squish isn't a very good descriptive term.
I think squish is a great description, to be honest, because you can feel the word squish, right? It's a sort of feelable word. And you and I both know what it's like to squish yourself in order to fit in or perform. So what you're talking about is this sort of expansion, this aliveness. We've been talking about eros, haven't we, this month in the circle. So what does eros look and feel like for you now, that aliveness?
Another great question.
Thanks.
I'm just buying myself time here.
Yeah, that's all right.
I think it's that aliveness in the moment. It's not in a future paced, like once I do this or once this happens or
That's so important what you're saying. That bit right there is so important what you're saying, because what you're saying is, and sorry I've interrupted you, women will pause their aliveness or their joy or their passion or their longing. And there's lots of reasons, there's lots of layers to that, but thank you for bringing that in. Yeah. And now you're not pausing.
yeah, that probably the best example I can give is when I go into the sea. And actually it's a great way because every time my mind's saying, don't do this. This is stupid. It's freezing in there. But actually once you get in there, like your body takes you in and it feels so alive because you're in nature, you're in water, which I think for our feminine bodies is so important. So I feel really alive there, feel really alive. And I always have had this connection to music and dance and movement. And I think deep connection with others as well. I think that's why I love my coaching clients as well, because there's, in like conversations like this, it's just that deep aliveness, that richness of, yeah, this is what life's about.
And what have you got coming up towards the end of the year that you're birthing?
So this year I am birthing my very first retreat with a dear friend. And that was to be able to frame it around the sort of feminine, masculine energies that I learned with you. Because I said yes to a radio show at the start of the year. And I was still like trying to talk myself out of doing it and why are you doing this? But it was this like an intuitive yes. And so I did the radio show interview, and then my friend Caroline that interviewed me phoned me the next day and said, I've had a dream that we're running a retreat together. Will we do it? And I thought, okay, here's the command, here's the door. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And it's just been a really beautiful experience. We've just both trusted. We found an incredible venue. And there's 8 lovely women coming along to our very first retreat in October in the Scottish Highlands. So, yeah. And it's felt really, really in flow. It hasn't felt like, oh, what can we do in our businesses? Or maybe we should run a retreat. It's just felt very intuitive, very organic, a little bit scary. That's definitely taken me to an edge. Had my moments of, can I do this? I've never done a retreat. All of the talk that goes on. But I've learned so much from you as well, Charli, and watched how you show up in the world with that consistency and following your nudges. And I think you're one of the few coaches out there, I think, that really embodies everything that they teach. and shows up, consistently. And so you made it a little bit easier for me just to keep showing up. And that's what we did. We made little videos so that people could hear us and see us, working together, and trust that feminine essence would bring the right people.
Yeah. I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs barking. They're going a bit nuts, the terriers. But no, I love this, and I've loved watching it, and I've loved watching it being birthed from like when she first approached you from the radio show to like now you've sold out. It's been really amazing, just incredible to witness that. So thank you for sharing that with the audience.
Thank you. I was just reflecting on what a different experience it's been for me. Old Lynne might have said, or that younger version of me might have said yes, but then constantly worried about it. And actually, I've really enjoyed the experience, and I feel really excited about it. And that keeps happening to me just now, and I'm a bit like, who is this? Where has she come from? um, and that just feels so much freedom as well. To like, I don't know how it's going to go, and just hoping and trusting that whatever we bring will be more than enough. Um, and it's that trust. Going back to when I first signed up with you, it was about trusting myself. I think then it was about everything going really well all the time and being brave and all of those things. That maybe that trust is around. Well, all I can do is show up as me and trust that that's enough, and that life will support me in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, good. What's most surprised you about this work?
It definitely wasn't what I expected. It was, I don't know, it's hard to put into words what surprise. I think what was invisible to me. And I think especially when you have worked as a therapist and a coach and you can see things in other people. So I think what surprised me was how difficult initially I found it to receive support, to receive like love and care, and like that really surprised me. I remember you would say something really kind and loving to me, and I would just start to cry, like my body wasn't lying, and I couldn't really understand it at the time. I was, what on earth's going on here? But the more that I learned about the feminine and about receiving, what we're receiving, whether it's love or whether it's our own crap that we're receiving for ourselves, like that alone was such a surprising yet beautiful gift that your coaching brought to me, was to be able to receive that belief, that support, that love. And I didn't know I'd blocked that. I didn't know how to receive really.
Well, you knew how to receive the shitty committee, and you
Yeah, I was
knew
really
how
good at that.
you knew how to receive the fight for your apparent limitations, right? But the receiving of support, the receiving of love, the receiving of your own care, I love this answer. Thank you for that's such a brilliant answer about what surprised you most about this work, because I'd have to say that's invisible to most women, that they don't know how to receive their own love and care, even though we're receptacle beings, but they are very good at receiving shitty committee. So they're receiving, but they're devoted to this story of not good enough or shame or internal critique, but they're not devoted to their longings, their passion, their eros, their aliveness in the same way. So yeah, thank you so much for bringing that in. It's such an important nugget, such a wise learning from you.
Mhm.
What's
Thank you.
changed for you then that you can ask for support or you are receiving more of your own care? Like what's that changed for you?
Yeah, I think just recognizing that in me, that I don't have to do it all alone all the time. Um, that it's okay to, yeah, to not know what you're doing, or to get it wrong, I guess, as well. And you've got this brilliant phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything, which again, I didn't quite get to start with. But then once you see it, I was like, yeah, if I'm not treating myself with love and care in one area, then that's how I'm doing it in all areas. Down to giving myself some space to rest, or making my bedroom a beautiful place to be rather than piles of clothes all over the floor. Or, it was just, I just started to, once I saw it, I started to see it. And it doesn't have to be massive things that you're changing in your life. It doesn't have to be a whole new career. It doesn't have to be these massive epiphanies. It's just the little tiny things every day, but doing it consistently, so that the parts of you that you've abandoned start to really know, actually, it's safe to be here now. I can show up in whatever way. It doesn't matter. Um, yeah,
Perfectly articulated, perfectly articulated.
thank you. And it's still a practice. There's
I
still,
know. I'm still practicing here too.
yeah. And I actually love that, because I think we can put so much pressure on ourselves. There's so much stuff out there that's about getting to some kind of end point.
Yes.
And so I love the freedom of, we're practitioners in this. It's like, wow, we just get to practice and get messy, and then, yeah, just take that pressure off. I think, I'm sure I speak for a lot of women, we can put so much pressure on ourselves. I was very good at that. Mm.
Yes, yes. And it keeps you in the sort of urgency, but of course the urgency is a nervous system response, and that's the sort of, when you really understand your body and its sensations, and you can feel that the compulsion to move, in whatever way in terms of pressure isn't there because you're able to name what this is in the body. And like you said, whatever experience you had last week, stay there, stay with it, believe it, have your own back, essentially. Yeah. So, what would you say to somebody who's listening to this and was feeling like not good enough, or like, recognizing some of the things that you said? What would you say to her?
It's like talking to younger me. So, yeah, I think I would just say, like, whenever you whenever you see that little glimpse of, yeah, you are enough. Whenever you feel really settled in yourself, just trust that. Or if you're in a group, or something that you've read, like one of your posts or something in that circle group, when you feel it touch something in you, trust that, because that's your first sign that it's enough and you're enough. And, yeah, there's so much noise out there.
There is so much noise out there. And that's the thing, isn't it, about being, if we're receptacle beings, being mindful what you consume.
Yeah. So, yeah, just trust the little voice, that's the little whisper. Maybe it's your body that's been telling you for a while, and I was really good at overriding my body. So, yeah, just trust the little nudges, trust the little whispers. It's not the big shouts, it's the little, go that way. I love following breadcrumbs. Yeah, follow the breadcrumb without knowing. And just, yeah, that's what I'd say to younger me and to anyone that's listening.
Yeah, well, I was, because you said younger you there, I was like, okay, what would you like to thank the woman of 2 years ago for?
Trust in her nudge. Yeah. I remember signing up. That took me to a massive edge. There
Yes.
was,
Well, do you want to share a little bit about that? What it took for you to sign up and come into working with me? Because that was 2 years ago, you. So younger you went through that, right? You did
yeah,
that without any of this, what you've learned now. You actually did that.
yeah. So I was in your field, obviously, because I joined the free group and then I joined the circle. So I was sort of gradually working my way. And I was getting your emails and I was learning, a little bit about you. And then I booked in for a call with you. And I think you shared with me what the edge feels like, which was really, really helpful, rather than because I might have just gone into my head and a story, but basically I felt scared. It was the unknown. I had no idea what was going to unfold. I didn't know how I was going to show up at the calls. I remember being scared to tell my husband because there was money involved, and I felt guilty about that. And I look back to that pattern and he was just brilliant. He was like, "Well, if it feels right, just do it," just like he did with Creep. He was great. That sort of masculine frame. Because I guess we go into that story of, well, I don't deserve to invest this for myself, the time, the money, the energy. So it was a real edge looking back to choosing me. I might not have articulated it as that at the time because I just felt a load of sensation of fear.
Yeah.
But underneath there was a sort of deeper knowing that, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. And yeah, that was my experience of my first edge there.
So what would you
Mm.
say to someone like who is on the edge, on that periphery, who isn't in the circle yet, who may be sort of thinking about a retreat? What would you say to that woman?
Yeah, I'd say just trust the first nudge. I keep moving my body forward, but it's almost like your body does that. If you're leaning into something, if you feel that urge to lean into your words, your energy, your essence, Charli, then just keep leaning. Because you won't fall down. You'll be so held and supported. Whether it's the free group, the circle, you show up the same way for all the women all the time in all of these areas. And if it's retreat, definitely yes, because then it'll take you to that edge. But just, yeah, keep leaning in.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And, I'd love to ask you what you're most proud of over these last 2 years. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud that I stayed and I kept trusting and yeah, I showed up every week for our coaching calls for 2 years and um, yeah, that's what I'm most proud of. That I stayed with myself and I showed up for me and that I get to live my life, learning to do that more and more.
Yeah, I'm very proud of you too.
Thank you.
Where can people find you on social media if they want to?
So on Facebook and Instagram, Lynne Sutherland Mind Body Coach. And my website is lynnesutherlandcoaching.co.uk. You can find me there.
Thank you so much for your presence and for your energy and for your beautiful articulation of something that I think is deeply profound for a woman to come into her body, to go down and in when she's so used to living in her mind and in the sort of medical model of the world that we live in. I think you've just spoken so beautifully about that. So I appreciate that, and you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So lovely to be. Thanks, Charli.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Courage, Dear Heart. I really appreciate it. It would be amazing if you could leave me a review and press subscribe so that others who are looking to find freedom from anxiety and habits can find their way here. You can also go to my website, iamcharliewall.com, and subscribe, sign up for my emails, and you'll also find my Facebook group, Finding Freedom from Habits and Anxiety, on Facebook. So yeah, please do connect with me, and I'll see you next week.